This is a several-pronged question, and I would like you to answer all aspects. Cambridge University, its colleges and the councils are promoting growth. Is this sustainable? What do you consider to be the cumulative impact of this development on the character and environmental capacity of Cambridge? And what will you do as MP to bring these groups together with residents?
So I'm standing for a party, for the Green Party, that is the only party that recognises that long-term, fast-paced economic growth is unsustainable. We only have the one planet to live on, and growth at a rapid rate has created many problems in Cambridge City. It's great that we have the opportunity to make money, that the place is prosperous, but there's a huge pressure on housing, the cost of living. I'm an NHS charge nurse. I know how difficult it is to afford to live in the city. So as Cambridge grows, we need to make sure that there's balance there, that there's money invested in decent, affordable housing. And when I say affordable, I don't mean 80% of the market value. I mean genuinely affordable for local residents. And it's also crucial that local green spaces and nature is protected as the city grows as well. I very much disagree with the plans to build a busway through the Westfields outside of Cambridge. I think areas like that are very important, both for nature and also for people's mental health and their ability to get out and enjoy their local environment. So as MP, I would work very hard to bring all those different people around the table and stand up for local residents so that it's not all about the interests of business or the universities, but that local residents are genuinely consulted with and listened to as well. Because it's all of our city, we all have a share in how it develops in the future, and it's important that we all work together to resolve these problems. But fundamentally, Cambridge cannot cope solely with a huge amount of growth and pressure on the city. It needs to be distributed around the country so that prosperity is shared out, and these problems that we're seeing in Cambridge don't just get worse in coming years.
Really important question. I do think that Cambridge, as a key part of the UK economy, has an important role to play, and that probably does mean our city growing. I'm not convinced by some of the projections that are made about doubling, tripling the size of our city. I'm not sure that that would be sustainable, because the key thing that makes Cambridge special is it's a city we love and cherish. So the challenge is to get that balance right. And I have been concerned by some of the developments I've seen in the city, like many other residents have in the last few years. So I would prefer to see developments dispersed around the hub and spoke model with proper, high quality, affordable mass transit systems to get people in and out of the city, or the parts of the city that people need to get to. My concern is that if it's just left to certain elements within the city to drive this agenda, it will go a certain way, which is why we need to make sure we include the full range of community organisations in coming up with those plans. So I remain optimistic that we are a sensible and consensual enough group of people in this city to have the kind of discussions that would lead us to those outcomes. What we can't do is just leave it to some of the developers to decide how we do things. I have been pretty disappointed by the way the station development has gone, because if you look back 10 years to the promises that were made at the beginning, there was talk of proper health services, a proper transport interchange, and at each stage the developers come back, applied pressure to the council to say, oh well, we can't go any further, it will be left unfinished unless. And despite the attempts of the council, I think the powers that they have been too limited in comparison to the power of the developers, and that has meant that we've not got the balance that we have needed. So there's a lot that needs to change. Cambridge can go on being successful, but it will only be successful if we maintain what's precious about the city, and that is the environment that we all love so much.
Cambridge is unique in I think possibly the world in how it works. It's created a brilliantly diverse and amazing place to live, but I think it is under threat of extreme expansion now, and we would, as NP, I would be pushing for, as before, groups of randomly selected groups of citizens who would work out what is the best way forward for Cambridge as a whole. So they would take into account all aspects of life in Cambridge, not just business, not just residents, the whole thing, how the entire city works together.
So I think this is a really interesting and really important question. How do we see the future of the city developing? And Cambridge has changed a lot. I grew up here in Cambridge. I came here when I was 3 months old, so in some ways I'm not a proper Cambridge lad. I missed out on being born here. But I've lived here ever since, going to school, university, working, living around different parts of the city. And I've seen how the city has changed during that time. Some of that is a very positive thing. The fact that we have so many successful businesses that are changing the world in life sciences, in technology, is excellent. But it does bring with it strains on housing, strains on the environment, strains on our transport system. And there is no simple answer to that. The approach of not allowing any growth of housing in Cambridge, for example, is one of the reasons why we have such unaffordable housing for many people here in Cambridge. Simply turning a blind eye just doesn't work. We have to develop. We have to do so, though, in a sustainable way. And we have to bring everybody together so they do keep talking. And I see one of the key roles of an MP as having that convening power, to bringing together the councils, the universities, and residents together to actually talk through these issues in a sensible way, so you don't have people imposing their decisions on others. How do we do it? I think part of the answer is to make sure that we actually think about the sustainability of a development. And that means environmental sustainability, that means in terms of renewable energy, it also means in terms of having green spaces, which are so important for people's well-being. None of us want to see concrete monstrosities. Social cohesion, so that people actually have things to do nearby, they can get to know their neighbours. All of that's really important. I think it also is about looking more broadly. So I've argued for a very long time for serious investment in some of the infrastructure that we have for transport. So I campaigned for 15 years for the Cambridge North Station, which is finally actually happening. We need to get more trains to stop there. But we also need an Addenbrooke station soon and an east-west rail line. Now that's important for travel, but it's also about making sure that as the city grows, there is some housing supply. So I'd love to see, for example, a garden town further along that east-west rail line that could be 15 minutes away from an Addenbrooke station, 20 minutes away from the city centre, 25 minutes away from the science park. If we can make that happen, we can manage to develop the city, provide housing for people, without making this some sort of colossal megacity.